as a way for me to give back to children and families, I started to write stories, and I call them healing stories. So my first
Mm-hmm.
published work, I don't know if you can see this, is Tell Me About Your Happy Place. And it features my character, the
Oh, there it
shy
goes. I see
giraffe.
it.
You see it? Okay.
Yes.
I think it's because my background is blurred. So this is available on Amazon, and this story really helps to encourage children to use a important strategy for self-regulation, and it involves visualizing and imagining a happy place. I've shared it with a lot of different circles, with families, with therapists, with teachers, educators, and it's very well received because it's something that children understand at a very young age. Even 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds
You're right.
immediately pick up on this idea of, oh, I know what my happy place is. And as soon as they think about that happy place, they automatically start to feel better. They start to feel
Wow.
regulated. And it's not a substitute for intervention, but it can
Mm-hmm.
help children in the moment to
Mm-hmm.
use their agency to
Right.
kind of get back to a place where they can then, seek some additional support. And I have another book coming out in the spring. You can look for that one. It's called Sometimes We Need Help with Feelings. So this book,
Mm-hmm.
Tell Me About Your Happy Place, is available wherever books are sold. And Sometimes We Need Help with Feelings will also be available wherever books are sold as well.
Can you give me an example of what a child would identify as a happy place? I know
Yes,
you show it in your story, right?
right, right.
But can you
So
tell me?
yes. So I've had children tell me that their happy place is in the park under a tree with a book. And one of
Mm,
my pages actually depicts picking up a book and reading. Other children have chosen people, and that was actually a page in my book because I wanted children to know, and I'll just read it to you if you don't mind. It says, Your
okay.
place can be a person too, from right now or from the past. Whenever you make memories, hold and squeeze them, make them last. And I have a picture of Shy Giraffe's grandma giraffe, who looks a
Mm.
lot like my grandma in her Sunday hat.
Oh my
And
God.
but so many children that I've read the story to, they choose a person who's that
Yes.
safe supporting person, and that
Right.
that that supportive person can be a happy place as well. But a happy place can be, in your favorite chair with your favorite blanket, or it can even be a place that you can't go to right this moment, but you can imagine
Right.
yourself at the beach,
Exactly.
which is one of my
Exactly.
favorites. Yeah.
Right. An example of visualization, which is awesome. So, every parent has patterns that tend to show up in stressful moments. Those automatic ways we react when emotions run high. What's one pattern you've noticed in yourself?
Mm,
For example, some parents jump in and fix things, they raise their voice, they withdraw, or they try to keep the peace. So, what is one
mm.
pattern you notice in yourself, aside from what your results show? Because you took the
Yeah.
quiz.
Yeah. So I have a
So,
good one for
what's one
you.
pattern?
Yes,
Okay.
so this is a pattern from the past. I have since addressed this and changed it, but I can be a talker and I can be a fixer. I'm a solutions person
Mm,
because
mhm.
I had some challenges when I was a child, and I was always presented with this notion that there's a strategy for everything.
Mhm.
If you want to find a solution, go to the library, which is one of my favorite places as a child. Go to the library before there was Google, research it, find it in that card catalog, read a book on it, make it your own, right?
Right.
So I just really believe that there's always a solution, there's always a strategy. Well, what I would do, unfortunately, was I would talk my children almost to death. You know, I would
Yeah.
explain, I would give, examples and resources and parables and examples,
Mhm.
and it was too much. So number one, not only was I trying to fix them,
Right.
but also I wasn't listening. I wasn't
Mm,
taking the time to just listen or to make them feel like I was listening, because there's a difference between like listening. Yes, you heard what the person said, but did you make the person feel heard? And
right,
children, they need to really experience that somebody else is hearing them. And a lot of
right,
times that means you got to, right? You got to
right.
close your mouth
You've got to be,
and
exactly.
pause for a minute
Yeah,
with that
that's an
answer or
important thing.
suggestion or reaction. And adults need that too, by the way. Sometimes I've been in a situation where I wanted to share something and I just wanted somebody to listen. I didn't want feedback, I didn't want advice. Just show me that you heard me.
Right,
So,
right. Well, yeah, it's definitely that pause moment is very important when we're interacting with our children, especially when they're experiencing big emotions, because we've got to listen and understand what that emotion is communicating.
yeah.
So for you to be able to just, you know, use that in the moment is it's the very first part of understanding our children's needs,
Thank
especially
you.
when they can't communicate that themselves. So good for
Thank
you.
you.
Let me go on to the next question. How do you
Mhm.
usually recognize when you're starting to move from calm to overwhelmed? And what helps you pause in that moment? There's that word, pause.
Yes, so one strategy, I can't help it, I love strategies. But one
Yep.
strategy that I
Yep.
learned in the corporate world, nonprofit corporate world, was the acronym WAIT,
Mm,
WAIT, which is why am I talking? And
yes.
I have
Yes.
practiced this in a lot of different realms of my life. And it's taken practice. It is
Mm-hmm.
not my instinct, but it's
Right.
like, okay, let me digest what was said. Do I need to speak right now? If I
Right.
am speaking, why am I talking? Like, what is my intention? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And so by doing that in a lot of different areas of my life, when it comes to supporting my children or interacting with them, it's gotten better to where I can just wait a minute, especially when, the emotions start to bubble, you know?
Right.
And along with that is just realizing, I know people say pick your battles, but I think it's a bigger concept than that. And it's really about like what is most important in this moment right now? Like, is the clean room the
Right.
most important thing right now? Is it really that substantial? Like, I mean, yes, it
Exactly.
kind of is, but pause. What else is going on? You know?
Right. Right.
And that's what I've tried to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can't really fix things until we know what's really going on. So
Mhm.
um
And I know for myself, I can be very task oriented as opposed to like relationship and maintenance oriented, and I am that as well. But in the
right.
heat of the moment, what's going to come out of my mouth first is, did you take the trash out? Why didn't you lock the door? you know? And I've learned over time that that just it's hurtful. I mean, bottom line, it's
Yeah.
just hurtful. Because
Mhm.
I mean, imagine if that was the only thing that came out of my husband's mouth was, "Why didn't you cook dinner?"
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or,
Exactly.
"You didn't change the oil in your car."
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
So, it it chips away at the
Right.
relationship,
Right.
and relationship is what then builds a foundation for effective parenting. Like, I'm not just his
Absolutely.
parent, but that's still my role, and I cannot have any sort of positive impact if I don't have a relationship with him
Mm,
first. So
right.
that's
In order
definitely
to
been a
make the
shift.
connection. You've got to make a
Absolutely.
connection too. You know what I mean? So that
Absolutely.
way there is that understanding between you and the child as well. Like if
Yeah.
there is a moment of dysregulation, allowing the child some space to be able to experience that and then come back and make that connection. I think it's very
Yes.
important that we do that.
And can I
Because
also
sometimes
add too?
they just want to vent. Sorry about that.
Exactly. No, no, I apologize. I just wanted to add too that that is something that we can do at any age. Um, it doesn't matter what age the child is. We
Right,
still want to be creating a space for a relationship.
right,
I remember times when I was a teacher and I would come home and I would just be exhausted and I still had papers to grade and my kids were doing homework and then it
right,
was like dinner and then, you know, karate, whatever, whatever. You just didn't have time to like sit at the table and just have a conversation because we were always like, okay, time to do this, hurry up, where are your sneakers, right? And so it doesn't matter the age. If we don't make a commitment to have just that quality time and build relationship, it will chip away.
right,
And you might not see it if, especially if you have children who are very compliant, you might not see it right away, but
right.
eventually it's gonna show up and you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, I don't have a relationship with this kid, or this kid doesn't trust me, doesn't confide in me.
Right. And then, but that leads to a lack of communication as well. I mean, we could go down that road,
Yes.
but that's what
Yes.
ultimately happens, and then you're not able to
Hmm.
really communicate with each other.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
when you think about your child's big emotions, what have they taught you about your own?
Um, I think I see I kind of see my relationship with my mother when I look at my relationship with my children, and I think about, what are the things that, my mother did well, and what are the things that I can build on and improve on.
Hmm.
So I think, when my children have big emotions, um, I think there's no bad feelings. And,
Right,
when I read my children's book to groups of children, we talk a lot about feelings.
right,
And I always make sure to emphasize that there are no bad feelings. I don't say like
right,
joy is a good feeling and sadness is a bad feeling. Just some
right,
of them are difficult. Some of them are tough to manage, or to feel, right? But
right,
they all can be felt, they all should be felt, and there's nothing that should ever be, like, make a child feel ashamed of being sad or even of being angry, you know? And
no,
so what I try to do is I try to make, um, space for the feeling so that they can feel it.
absolutely. Right. They've got
And
to experience it.
absolutely, it's unhealthy not to. I
Right.
learned that the hard way. Um, but I am a big proponent of therapy and Jesus. And so I
Hmm.
have learned that it's okay to have feelings. Even the Bible says, be angry, but do not sin. So it's not
Mm,
about the anger part, it's about what you do with the anger.
right,
So my husband and I also try to model feelings too. We don't necessarily do it intentionally, like, okay, let's make sure we model some feelings today. But in retrospect and introspect, we've realized that it's important for them to see us experience feelings and know that it's
right.
healthy and it's okay.
And it's okay. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a space for emotions and feelings. And
Yeah.
it's okay for you to allow them to go through your body, for you to experience them.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it's important for them to go through the body, because if they don't, we know the body keeps score and it's gonna come out some other way.
It definitely does.
Mhm. It's gonna
Absolutely.
show up.
So you took the quiz,
Yes, ma'am.
and what did you discover? What did you discover about that quiz? So the quiz,
So
if for those of
yep.
you who don't know, the quiz that I'm talking about is it's called I call it the parenting profile quiz, and it allows you to go through a series of questions and respond to them. and you get a score, and you're either in one of five different parenting, you fall in one of five parenting profiles. You're either a comfort keeper, a rule keeper, a problem solver, a curious learner, or a sensitive supporter. Okay. And so, Habiba, what did you end up scoring as?
Yes. So, interestingly enough, I ended up getting a tie score um, between Comfort
Mm-hmm.
Keeper and Curious Learner. So there are 20 possible points, and I
Okay.
got 9 points on both of those.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
very,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Where does the extra 1 point fall?
I think I got
Or
one
2 points?
for,
2 points.
yeah, I got one of them was for, I don't have my paper anymore, but
Oh,
one of
that's
them
okay.
was
Yeah.
for, I think Rule Keeper,
Yeah.
and the other one was for maybe Problem Solver.
Mm-hmm.
So, and honestly, I felt really good about those results because I
Yeah.
know that in the past I was a rule keeper. My
Mm-hmm.
children were raised by a rule keeper. I was raised by a rule keeper. And
Right.
as I reflect on that, I realized that part of that was survival, you know?
Yeah.
I remember once I sat my children down and we had this long conversation about Philando Castile
Mm,
and some of the other, young African American men who had left us too soon and the circumstances
right.
around that.
Right.
And I remember feeling this urgency and desperation, and I was like, this is what we do. This is what we don't do. This is how we speak. This is how we don't speak. This is how you
Mm-hmm.
carry yourself. And it was a lot of rules. And
Mm-hmm.
that was like survival, right?
Right.
But over time, life has taught me that there's another way, and I love being a comforter. I
Yeah.
love being a safe place for my children.
Absolutely.
And
And that's
I
what usually
honestly,
comfort keepers do. They want to keep their children safe or provide safety to their children.
right, yes, and but without the oppression, which is
Right.
something that I think I was leaning toward with all of the rules.
Mm,
And I feel, I'm so grateful that I was able to learn it. Honestly, I wish I had learned it a little bit sooner, but
hmm.
here we are. And,
Right.
my whole household is benefiting from that. And
Nice.
so to be a safe place for my children, um, I honestly, I don't care what people say. I don't care what my culture says.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can turn it on when I need to turn it on and say, "Oh
Right.
no, we're not going to do that. Lower your voice,"
Mm-hmm.
you know. But having
Mm.
built a relationship, that's going to be received differently. So I love, being in that role as a comfort keeper.
Absolutely. I mean, the other piece to that is there are times, right, in our experiences with our children when we are probably all five.
Yeah.
We probably fall within all five profiles.
Mhm.
But it depends, right, on the circumstance, you know.
Yes.
Um, so good. And then you are also a curious learner.
Mhm.
So finding the solutions to maybe
Yep.
why the individual or your child, should I say, might have, felt a particular way or something might have happened. You're doing the research to find the answers for why.
Yes. Yes. There's still that part of me that's like, "Okay, we can fix it.
Mhm.
Let's fix it."
Exactly.
But, it's less of, an anxious sort of mentality, and it's more of like a, I wonder. Let me look. Let me be quiet. Let me notice. Let me
Hmm.
listen. Let me really
Hmm.
see." And
Yeah.
that, I think, makes it more informed.
Right.
I try very hard to be self-aware. I'm probably too aware. I might need to chill out
Mm,
with that a little bit, but ultimately, that's a part of who
right,
I am. So how can I take that naturally curious side of me and do something that will help benefit my children and my family? So I try to pay attention.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, the concept behind me writing the reflective parent guide is to bring more awareness to parents, because I think without it things go awry. We don't really form connections with our children, and that causes us to have some difficulty with helping them to get through the challenges that they experience. So
That's
I
right.
think it's important for us to allow, first of all, be aware of our own emotional patterns and behaviors, to make space for them to experience their emotions, and then to allow time to reconnect once they've kind of gone through those challenging behaviors or emotions. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so but the language that you're using in this interview today, it fits right into the whole concept of the reflective parent anyway. So I'm so glad that you're the first one to actually start this process.
All
um,
right. Whew, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
um, there was something that you mentioned in your reflection. You mentioned that your son's needs shifted the way you parent. You were once a rule keeper.
Mhm.
um, So can you tell us a bit more about that moment and what it revealed about your parenting style?
Um,
What
yeah, it
you
was
mean, like his needs
yeah,
caused you to become more of a comfort seeker?
yeah. So, it happened over time, but when my youngest son started middle school, end of middle school, beginning of high school, we
Hmm.
definitely started to notice that it was a tough transition for him.
Right.
And he started to become withdrawn, depressed, just a lot of avoidance behavior. And you know he's a gifted young man in a lot of ways, but
Mm-hmm.
none of that really matters if he is just constantly carrying around stress and
Right.
anxiety. And so you know, we have obviously there's certain standards and expectations, but within that, I definitely had to shift. My husband and I had to shift because the stress for him was just overwhelming.
Mm.
And he needed to know that we cared, that no teenager thinks parents understand. So we'll just skip
Mm-hmm.
that one. We'll just skip the understood
Right.
part. But he needed to know that we cared. He
Right.
needed to
I
know
mean, but,
that
but also kind of circling back to that, but
yeah,
circling back to that piece where you said the
yeah,
understanding or being understanding, I think
yes,
also it was important for your son to realize that you it was important for him to be heard, right? And
absolutely.
he can't be heard if you don't understand him,
Yeah,
or if
yeah,
you don't try to understand him.
yeah.
Sorry for
And
interrupting.
no, no, no. I say that tongue in cheek because, you know, they always say, you don't understand, you don't understand.
Hmm.
But do we hear? Yes. Do we
Right.
care? Yes. Are we willing to give you more time, give you space? Um, are we willing to respect your autonomy?
Right.
Um, do you have an opinion in this house? Absolutely, you have an opinion in this house. And we're going to consider it. And we're going to do what's best and healthy and safe in the end. And that may be what you want. And it may not be, but you had a voice. You had a
Right.
voice in this. So I think,
Absolutely.
that was very different than nope, because I said so, I don't wanna hear it,
Mhm.
it's different.
Right. Right.
Yeah, So,
Awesome. And then finally, parenting is a constant practice of reflection. What's one small intention you're carrying forward after today's conversation?
uh, hmm, one small intention.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good question. I think my intention is to be excited, to anticipate, um, you know, good things, to have hope.
Yes.
And I'm saying that from a place of, the future is unpredictable. All of us can
Mm,
relate to that right now.
right, right.
So, but part of my resilience and part of my resistance is my joy. And so I choose that and I choose to reflect that in for my children as
Mm,
they're trying to figure out what it means to be young men um,
mm,
amid so much uncertainty.
right,
They are
right,
coming up in an age where it's a little bit more challenging. Things are confusing, things are shifting constantly.
right.
And I want to be that safe place like we talked about, but I
Yes,
also want to exemplify that we can find joy and we can have joy. And you
right.
know i I believe the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Mm,
I believe there is strength in joy. And so I will hold on to that anticipation, even if I have to, make that joy myself. It's not
mhm,
going to necessarily be dependent on someone else.
right.
Which I think is why I'm a writer and an artist, because I create my own pathway for
Mm,
joy. But I also, um,
absolutely.
as an individual, my joy is not going to be dependent on whether or not my children meet some contrived expectation of life for themselves. So, for
Right,
example, my oldest son chose not to go to college, and that was not didn't carry less weight, that he decided to go into a trade. Nobody in the family looked down at that. Nobody was disappointed, okay,
hmm,
because he made the choice that was right for him. My
right,
joy is not dependent on him going to college.
right,
My
right,
joy is not dependent on him meeting certain milestones by a certain age. My
right,
joy is he is healthy, he is happy, he is independent, he has good character, um, he's paying his bills. We like that. We like
right,
that. And
right, right,
hopefully I taught him how to do that. And if he's struggling with something, guess what? He comes to me and we talk about it. Like that is
right.
something to be overjoyed about. So
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it seems like you have also grown, right, with your children, like
Yeah.
based on their needs and everything that you've experienced as their mom and their
Mm,
parent. It seems like you've grown emotionally with them,
yes. Yes.
you know, and we
Yes.
do.
I have to.
We absolutely do,
Yeah.
you know. I think interacting with our children causes a shift in our own in the way that we not only parent but in the way that we feel emotionally,
Mm,
you know, because
yeah.
sometimes emotions can take over
Mhm.
and it blinds us,
Yes.
you know. So I think
Yes.
that's also part of the reason why it's so important to be more of a reflective parent and pause and allow yourself time to kind of figure out what's going on in the moment without trying
Mhm.
to immediately react to it.
Yes. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So if people need to find you, where can
Yeah.
they find you?
So I have a hybrid publishing company here in Springfield, Mass, and
Mhm,
my website is parkedgecreative.com. And that has
mhm.
all of my links. It has a link to my Facebook page, my Amazon and Barnes and Noble. If you're interested in purchasing my book, or if maybe you're interested in writing your own book and you want a writing consultation, I do those as well. Yep. Thank you so much for sharing that. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. So, yes, that's a great way to get in contact with me, for sure. Yes.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Habiba, for coming on and spending this 45 minutes with me. What did we think? It was about going to be about 30 minutes, but there's so much, right? There's so much to
Yes.
talk about when
Yeah.
it comes to parenting. But thank you so much for getting this kick-started, this series kick-started. Every 2 weeks I will be live with a new parent, and we're going to be talking all about being more reflective and what their parenting profiles are basically telling them. What does it mean to be a comfort keeper? What does it mean to be a rule keeper? And unpacking those as we have these conversations.
Awesome. Definitely a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Bye.